most people were just like me, right? Settling at their 9 to 5 because of benefits, or because of the fact that you've been there already, or just because of the fact that you actually think you can do more for that company. But what I started to understand is that in all reality, you have to have a higher earning capacity. And real estate investing was just for me, and that's what changed my life.
What is going on today, guys? Jesse Burrell here, CEO BatchService, sitting down with my boy Brandon Blue Notes out of Florida. Thanks for making the trek. I know you've been seeing all the gurus out here, dropping some gems. Excited to have you on today.
Man, excited to be on with you and on your platform, man. So I'm just here to give as much value as possible and just help people understand how to get into the business and how to be able to, use the barrier of entry of just wholesaling and real estate investing. So I appreciate you a lot, man.
Yeah, I know we talked off script about this, but I really just want to talk about, people to know who you are, how you got started, what you're doing today. We'll kind of get into a whole bunch of different things, but I always think it's really good. And we don't do this a ton on Batch. It's just like really interviewing someone and hearing their story and talking about your successes and failures. And you're doing some really cool stuff off camera that we're talking about. So let's just get started with telling people about who you are and how long you've been wholesaling for or investing for and what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So essentially, I was born to a single mom and grandmother. They're from Colombia. And I was born and raised in Queens, New York. My mom worked several jobs, and I shared a bedroom with my grandmother to the age of 16 just because, we didn't have a silver spoon. So it was kind of funny, if you ever walked into my room, one side would be like a bunch of Catholic and religious stuff, and then one side would be like LeBron and all the stuff that I liked. But it was great, it was great. I didn't meet my father till the age of 16, and I actually found out that my father was actually pretty wealthy, and he did real estate. So I kind of had that real estate bug just to kind of show and tell to my dad that I could do what he was doing, but it wasn't something that I initially wanted to do. So going to school, I was your average C student, just did the bare minimum. I was very much of a class clown. And I always, got people to kind of sway my way, right? If we're talking about going this way, I was like, no, we should do this. So I was always good at influencing people and, just being that popular person. Thereafter, I said, you know what, let me just go and get a job, right? So after high school, I like to stay fresh. I said, you know what, let me go and learn how to cut hair. So I became an apprentice at a barbershop. I was kind of like the do-boy. So essentially, I would go there, sweep, for them. I would get their lunch. I would get their, tools or whatever they needed. And then that's how I was learning for free how to cut hair. But over time, I kind of noticed that it just wasn't something longevity-wise that I wanted to do. So I quickly learned, like, hey, listen, for me to make more money here, I have to cut more hair, which obviously is less time away from my family. Or I have to charge more, but it's very difficult to charge more when your competition is right next to you.
Right.
And then the last would be, become an owner. But all the owners that I knew, that they still worked at barbershops. So I went to my local hospital and started to volunteer as a patient transporter. So same thing, Jesse. I had another epiphany. I started going to community college. Didn't take it seriously. I'd use my Pell Grant money for, just having fun or stuff like that. So it took me 5 years to get a 2-year degree. And once I finally got done, I wanted to go into nursing. Once again, another epiphany where I was like, you know what? I don't know if that's really something that I want to do. I don't know. I just see myself doing more, and I see myself making more money. And I decided to just not go back to college. I decided to go ahead and do my own route. And I started to read a lot and change my mindset a lot. And at that point in time, I said, you know what? How do I go ahead and make a lot of money? And what really pushed me to the ledge was one day I was at Publix with my grandmother. She was buying the groceries, and her card kept declining. And the gentleman behind us actually decided to go ahead and pay for our groceries. And I said, this will be the last day somebody will dictate whether me and my family eat again.
Yeah.
So went home, went on YouTube University, and started figuring out how can I make more money, and real estate just kept popping up.
A lot of people that are going to watch this are in real estate, obviously,
Yeah,
and they
sure.
want to know your journey.
Yeah.
Talk to me through your first year of real estate. What did you make? How much did you make? What were the struggles? Because a lot of people, for me, it was, those first, I'd say 2 years were the hardest.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of self-doubt that goes on and a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of pocket watching, seeing how everyone else is doing so much better than you.
Yeah.
What did those first couple years look like for you? And what year did you get started actually?
So 2017, I became a licensed realtor.
Okay.
And once I became a licensed realtor, I went out there, got my business cards. I got with a broker that the only agent was me. So I was just really excited because I had this new journey, right? And I started showing a bunch of people houses. But the thing is that I had to use social media because I didn't have a sphere of influence when it came down to a lot of people that could qualify for a house, that had good credit. So I had to go out there on Facebook and Instagram and try to reel people in. And I would come out of work and I would go and show people houses. I remember showing this one lady houses for 3 months, and I would drive 45 minutes out because she wanted to live in what's called Cape Canaveral, which is a little bit further out from Orlando. And after 3 months, she ended up not buying anything. And I did the math, and the money that I would have made on commission was like $3,000. I said, well, you know what? How do I be the decision maker? Because once again, I'm working for the man, or in this case was a woman, right? And my money, right, is being dictated by somebody else.
Right.
And that's when I figured out about real estate wholesaling, which obviously in the beginning I thought it was a complete scam. I was like, how can I sell something that I don't own, right? So the great thing is that I started to understand what real estate wholesaling was, the fact that I am gaining equitable interest when I go under contract with somebody, and that I don't need to have a license because I'm representing myself.
Right.
And because of the inspection period, I can back out. And also because of the assignment clause, I can sell that interest to somebody else without having to own the actual property. So yeah, did my actual first deal on my own. And at that point in time, Jesse, I knew that everything that I wanted was obtainable.
Let's talk about how do you actually be consistent. We need to talk about your processes.
Yeah, so let's talk about processes. So number one, when I first got started, I was still working obviously multiple jobs, and I was trying to struggle. I used to use what's called call rail, right, back in the day. And I used to bring in my leads through there, and then I would have them I would write them down on my iPhone notes, and it worked. But the thing is that I didn't know where I was, when I closed the deal, I didn't know how many times I called them. I didn't know where the list came from. I didn't know any of that stuff. I wasn't tracking any of that, right? Another mistake that I made was that, unfortunately, because of the scarcity mindset that I had and the attachment of money, I wouldn't want to reinvest all of it, right? Because I wanted to start accumulating more and more wealth or more and more cash. Because society puts you in this thing to say, hey, save your way to wealth. But it's impossible to save your way to wealth.
Well, as a business owner, it is, because the more, if you have the right processes and systems and know where you spend money, how much you get out of it, that's when you actually need to be reinvesting and spending more money. And that's how we were successful with Batch, was because we did have at that time a successful real estate operation where Batch was just like gravy on top. So we kept just reinvesting into developing, we started with batch skip tracing, then batch leads, then we had batch dialer, and then batch driven, which is now folded back into batch leads. And then now we have a batch data product as well, like an enterprise product. And all that was because we understood systems, processes, and how to grow. But like, if we were focused on, we need to keep and take all this money, there's no way we'd be anywhere close to where we're at revenue-wise today.
Yeah, you can't. You have to let the money work for you. So that's a mistake that I did
properly too.
Properly, yeah. And that's the thing about it, right? That when you're doing this on your own, it's kind of hard because there's not a handbook for this, right? This is why you want to read books. It's why you want to look at the right type of content, maybe get a mentor, because you want to be able to go ahead and utilize somebody else's wisdom and mistakes and what they've done so that you can do this properly. So basically invested into a great CRM and started using that, and that allowed me to understand what KPIs were. But at that point in time, Jesse, I'll be honest with you, man, I was doing direct mail. And I said, you know what, I have to cut my cost per lead down, right? And how do I do this? And I started to build a great relationship with my mailman. And from one day to the next, he disappeared on me. And I said, dang. And I started thinking about, well, how can I get more properties while I'm at work without having to go to the county and pull the actual records? At that point in time, I was also using TLO, which was like 17, 20. I don't even know what it was. I remember you had to have like a lockbox in your and all that just to get qualified, right?
Yeah, just to get phone numbers.
So that's how long we've been doing this, right? So anyways, I left a sticky note in my mailbox, and I was able to go ahead and basically joint venture with my mailman. And then they started to go ahead and bring me in opportunities, and I started to close more and more deals. But yeah, that's when I started to scale my business. I started to do, learned a lot on the way, because tax delinquency was one of my favorites. I used to use a blind postcard, direct mail, which still works to this day. And I used to pull the tax delinquent list every 2 months, what I didn't know is that the tax delinquent's roll was actually pulled every year. So I was actually marketing to the same list every 2 months. But what that actually showed me,
it's consistency.
Exactly, was consistency. And that no matter what, as long as you followed up, you would always get a deal. So yeah, I did that, and then my biggest breakthrough was a code violation deal.
That's well put. I couldn't agree more. Let's dive on to the next subject. Let's talk about, is wholesaling all you do? Do you do any flipping? Do you buy any rentals? I guess holistically, what is your real estate, I guess, like portfolio look like? Like how are all the ways you make money in real estate?
Yeah. So number one, primarily I do wholesaling real estate. I've done a little close to 400 deals, thank God. And one of the biggest things that I didn't get to capitalize on was that I actually get to learn real estate investing for free and make money at the same time because of wholesaling.
Right.
And essentially what I mean by that is that the people that you're selling to are actually real estate investing. They're buying properties, they're renting them out, they're they're flipping them, they're buying commercial, whatever it is they're doing. And these people, since you have that nugget, you can use them for free. So a lot of times what I would do is I'd say, okay, I want $100,000 for this property. And they're like, well, listen, can you do it for $98,500? And I'd say, okay, you know what? I'll go ahead and look out for you on this deal, but I want to shadow you on your flip. Or, hey, I want to ask you questions on why you did this and how you did that. Why is it that all your houses have a red door and it's painted gray? All right?
Yeah.
And these are the questions that you ask, and you actually get to learn. Because in my opinion, I don't know, Jesse, if you would agree with me, but me being around people that are way more successful, way smarter than me, I've come to realize that the rich and wealthy, they actually don't buy real estate for cash flow. They buy real estate for tax advantages and wealth preservation.
Correct.
Right? Because that whole thing, buying a duplex, living on one side, renting the other side, and making $300, I'm sorry, it's not going to retire your wife. It's not going to get you to Jamaica faster, right? And it is good debt. It is maybe 20, 30 years down. You may be able to go ahead and take advantage of it, but you're not going to be in your prime enjoying your life now. So what I started to understand is, how do I leverage people that are actually doing this? And I'm actually making the money, but then I'm getting huge tax bills, right? This first couple years, you're like, okay, how do I do that, right?
You've talked a lot about, your why and your journey and how you want your future family. Like, what are your future plans? Like, what are your goals to create this thing? Like, do you want to start getting into commercial real estate? Or are you trying to get into, more rental properties, syndications? Like, what's, like, you have these big goals, I could tell.
Yeah.
Tell me about them. Like, what is the next 2, 3, 4 years look like?
Yeah, my biggest goal is to accumulate enough cash to be able to be a hard money lender. I want to be able to lend money to other people that are fixing and flipping, other people that want to start their own business, and like you were talking about earlier, venture capital and things of that nature. Just because investing into somebody else's dream and their vision, I think, is very dope. I wish that I had somebody do that when I first started.
Right.
So I think that that's something that, I really want to do. And you start to understand the banking system on how they take your money and then they lend it out 1,000 times. And then when you even go to pull out money, they don't have your money and they ask you a bunch of questions, right? So how do you hack the system? And a lot of the times is you have to be that person that has that money. And how can you use your money to put other people in positive positions? So my end goal is to become a private money lender, hard money lender, and do things like that, be able to help other people in their visions and their projects. My second one right now is going to be building a community. I want to build a bigger community than what I already have. I want to be able to help, build a tribe of people. And I think that goes hand in hand, because the more people that I help and the more people that I get to where they want to be, the more that I'll be able to go ahead and have more opportunities, right? I look at everything as abundance. And the greatest thing about what I've been able to do is that I've been able to help people, and God just always sends me somebody or an opportunity, right? So, yeah, I think it's hand in hand with buying the real estate, doing more deals, helping more people, JVing with my students. All one in one is going to be able to get me to what I truly want to be able to do.
So before we wrap up, I guess I got a few more questions for you, and then obviously I want the audience to know how they could, get in contact with you or get into your mentorship, because I want people, especially people that are new, they're gonna go pay someone something somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know that you're the type of person that's going to take care of your community. But before we get there, I guess, what's the biggest deal you've done? And I know you mentioned a few books, but like, what is your favorite book for someone to get started in real estate as well?
Yeah, great question. So the biggest deal that I've done was a $70,000 assignment fee. It was actually in the midst of COVID, and it ended up being a pre-foreclosure. And one of the greatest things was that when it comes down to wholesaling, you have to be able to stack your list, right? You have to be able to find different levels of motivation. And because of that deal, I was able to go ahead and do that. So we did what's called a short sale process on it.
Okay.
It took some time. But obviously, you definitely reap the benefits. I do regret wholesaling it. I wish that I would have kept that property. I got it for $210. Under contract, I wholesaled it for $280, and then I think they put like $80K into it, and they sold it for somewhere like $560. So
Right.
that was my biggest deal. But I'm honestly, man, I'm grateful for even the small ones, right? Because what you learn is wisdom, you learn experience, and everything is a lesson learned. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about that deal, and I hope that I can get some more of those.
Yeah, and let's talk about books for, let's just say, entrepreneurs. So what's like your favorite book for a new entrepreneur to read?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tie it back in, man. My favorite book is Outwitting the Devil, and I think that with entrepreneurship, just like you touched on it earlier. What you said was like, you said that you can see how I'm successful based on the questions I was asking, or I guess how I was talking. And I think that your mindset is very, very important. You have to have tough skin, and you have to be able to think differently and outside the box when you want to become an entrepreneur. I would also say The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki was a really great book as well. And then obviously everybody knows the Holy Grail, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I definitely recommend that those 3 books would be very, very well, to go ahead and look at.
Yeah, and I think those are all great books. I'd add one last book, and I would say a book that really changed my life was Atomic Habits.
I heard about that book.
Because I think that for someone to truly make change and be successful and do all those things, you have to change your habits and how you do things. And it's a great book to show you how to kind of shift your mindset and become the person you want to be, but you're not going to become that person without discipline and the right habits. So to wrap this up, if someone wants to get a hold of Brandon Blue Notes out of Orlando, Florida, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I mean, at this current moment, it's going to be Instagram at Blue Notes Brandon. My YouTube also is Blue Notes Brandon. My Facebook is my name, Brandon Narain. You can reach out to me on any of those platforms. And yeah, just let me know you saw me on Batch with Jesse, and hopefully I can provide some value and help you out.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and doing this. I know you traveled thousands and thousands of miles and got to drop a bunch of gems all week here in Phoenix. But until next time, guys, let's get it.